General, I think we're live.
Hey, we made it.
We made it.
Good here. This is the last Friday of Black History Month. Even though we love to celebrate Black History every day, it is specifically highlighted for the month of February in honor of the great Carter G. Woodson, who came up with the idea of having a specific time to celebrate, honor, and pay homage to the history of African American people.
That started off as a week, right?
Yes,
It
yes.
started off as a week. We're going to scoot up just a little because people want to see our lovely faces.
Yeah.
Okay, I am Danya Craddock, co-owner of the Doc Bookshop with my co-host, or the host. I'm the co-host. He's the host. Pharaoh, the magnificent, the awesome Pharaoh,
Right.
the historian,
Yes.
the griot, all of the above. I am just so honored to be here. I've been missing some weeks, but I am honored to be here today with you. So I'm going to do like Don and make sure we are live on all our streams. If you're out there, I want you to say hello or something. Let us know you hear us. We're working. We're doing an amazing job. Thank you for everybody my people that come in every week that showed up. Yes. We got a young teen and a parent. So we're happy to have them here today. So let me just check and make sure that we're on all our platforms. And while we're doing that, share, because we're going to have a lot to talk about today. We are in peril.
Yes.
That's all I can say. We're under siege.
It's nothing that we can't overcome.
Woo,
We've done it before.
And while we're doing that, share. Okay, I see we are live on Facebook and YouTube. Mm-hmm. So, how's your week been going?
My week has been good. I've been doing the MBK program. This is My Brother's Keeper mentoring program. And I'm in about 10 schools in Fort Worth per week. And it's just awesome because, of course, for this week, I've just been encouraging the young men and young ladies to not only go and try to find some historical Black figures and some historical Black events, but just make it a part of your lifestyle. Make it an everyday thing, or just a part of, because the history is so rich, but it's not tapped into. So I've been encouraging, and also some of the teachers to do their own research, and just you'll be so surprised what you find. I love history. I think history has so many answers to some of the questions today, even what we're going through today with this new regime. If you look at history, a lot of the answers are right there. We've been faced with much more, than this. So this too shall pass.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I personally am feeling the heat, but we have been empowered by those that have came before us. And I just want to recap on some of the things that we have done as we come to a close in this Black History series. Just for this series, but we do this 365 days. So we did February 6th was African civilization pre-colonial Africa.
That's right.
So the Mali, the Songhai, and the Ghana Empire, as well as ancient Egypt, the Kibilan, Kemet, Ethiopia. Yeah, right. We call it Kush, Nubia, Timbuktu. Yeah, that's right. The ancient teachings. And then we went into the Ma'afa. Thank you, Mariam Ba'ani, for coining the phrase Ma'afa, the great tragedy, and which is known as the transatlantic slave trade. Yes. Then we went into Reconstruction and Civil Rights. Oh man, I'm talking Reconstruction and Civil Rights. Somebody said to me just recently, I had to bring this up because I was just taken by surprise. He said, we are in a modern day burning. He said, a lot of people don't know that the homes that were mostly burned was in a community that was set aside for African Americans. There's a part of Pasadena they have renamed it Afrodena or something like that. I can't think of the name. But the dominated side, the non-Black side, was preserved. And he said so many of his friends, so many of his people lost their home. Wow. And they don't know that was a modern day Black Wall Street.
Mm.
I was
Yeah.
like, wow, I didn't even look at it that there was a separation of Pasadena, because you think of Pasadena as this,
Mm-hmm.
this
Affluent community.
yeah, you didn't know that they were split,
Mhm.
that it was a segregated community. I
Yeah.
never knew that.
Yeah.
Like, wow,
Yeah.
California is almost hush hush, but it's that was just sad to me when I came to the realization that that was what it was. And this week now we're at civil rights in the current state of Black America.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we go from here? Where do we start with the civil rights?
Well, I like always mentioning civil rights. The civil rights movement in this country for Black people. There were two incidents that triggered the civil rights movement, if you will, and I think we briefly touched on it last week. But those incidents were on August 28th with the killing of Emmett Till.
Mm-hmm.
Emmett Till was a 14-year-old young African American boy who was from Chicago and was visiting family in Mississippi. And he allegedly whistled at a white woman. And so, of course, angry white male mob came and found him and just did horrible things to him. They hung him, they tortured him, they did everything. They found his body in his body was found in the river, and his mother was bold and brave and aware enough to keep the casket open so the world could see her son. Mm-hmm. So this set off, of course, a surge of people wanting to make a change. Mm-hmm. And so that happened on August 28th, and then 3 months later, September, October, 4 months later, in December 5th, we know what happened in Montgomery when Rosa Parks decided to not get up. And that created something. So 1955 set off the civil rights movement, particularly with those two acts. And from there, we went through the 50s, through the 60s of resisting and organizing and creating great leaders were birthed out of that. The Black Panther, well, before we get to the Black Panther Party, of course, the boycott. So when Rosa Parks refused to get up and this became an issue, there was a movement going on, but they needed a spokesman. And this is when the young Martin Luther King, the first time we saw him speak outside of the pulpit, and he was birthed as a new up-and-coming voice for the people. But the bus boycott is the first time we saw Martin Luther King represent the movement, and so we know his story. And then going into the Black Power movement.
Well, I do want to pause there because I do want to make sure we make mention of SNCC and
yes, the organizations that were around it. Yes, the great organizers. So during this time with the bus boycott, we had SNCC stands for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and this was students in the local universities that were, matter of fact, when the boycott was going on and protests were going on, a lot of the people used to fill up the jails were the students, college and high school students. They would, because if you were under, I think, 18, you could not be held longer than, I think, 24 hours or something.
Right. And so they did a lot of the sit-ins, too.
A lot of the sit-ins.
So
we had SNCC, we had SCLC, and
the Southern Christian Leadership Conference.
Yes, and so these were organizations that were behind making the power moves. And you had some awesome leaders behind the scenes, behind the Martin Luther Kings, that were doing the work.
Ella Baker.
Ella Jo Baker, one of my she was just a great organizer. Ella Jo Baker, and you had September Clark, right?
September Clark.
You had just some great movers and shakers. And then you had the men too that did some great things. But I love always highlighting the women because they don't get enough shine to me. Yes.
But I mean, that was such a tumultuous time period, and not to discount a lot of the families. And I can't think of there was a horrible murder. It was Jesse. I can't think of his name, but there was so many people that stood up against this inequality. And we have to continue to remember their fight and their battle, because a lot of us have made accomplishments, but it was off the loss that many families had endured. during this time period. So I don't want to take away anything from all the sacrifices and the lives that were lost.
Yeah.
So we can have what would look like true freedom and liberation.
That's right.
Um,
I was sharing something earlier with one of the people in the audience about Martin Luther King, his brilliance and his strategy as a strategist. He would often have his people call the media to let them know, as an anonymous tip, to let them know that there would be a protest at the court building or whatever. And knowing that Martin Luther King and his peers would go down there and they would pray, peacefully protest, and then the police would come with the water hose and the dogs, and this would be a horrible scene. These peaceful protesters being attacked by the police, but it would be filmed because Martin Luther King was wise enough to realize, let their cameras expose what's going on. And this happened where this would ultimately get back to the nation's capital. And the president at the time was Kennedy. And this is how the National Guard was sent to Alabama and just to say, yo, what are y'all doing?
And I like that so much because I talked about this before, that one of his earliest speeches was his visit in 1952 or 57 when Ghana's independence.
Yeah, 57.
Okay, 57. So when he went to go to see Kwame Nkrumah become the first president of Ghana, but how did he get there? And so he had to know that Kwame Nkrumah used the media. That was his main weapon against colonial powers, was the media. And so
against itself.
I can only imagine that he took that same strategic approach. How Nkrumah deal with colonials, how he deal with America's supremacy.
Yeah. And that was just a brilliant move. But oftentimes America, some of the Americans who were doing the work were inspired, would inspire those outside of America. Like even Marcus Garvey, we spoke about that last time. Marcus Garvey was inspired by the movement of Booker T. Washington. And so America, even in the midst of their inhumanity, the resistance to that would inspire many to do great things outside of America. And so this created this bridge of even with Martin Luther King being inspired by Gandhi. All right, his story that happened 40, 50 years before Martin Luther King. But so there's always been a connection because, in the words of Dr. King, there's no, what is it, freedom. The loss of freedom here is the loss of freedom everywhere. I'm paraphrasing.
She said, "Talk louder." So y'all cannot hear us. I guess we feel like we're talking to our folks in here. She said, "Talk louder," that she cannot hear.
Talk louder. Okay, we can talk louder.
Okay. Can you hear us loud now?
Hopefully that's better.
Let me see if it's on. Let me see what's going on Facebook.
So let's go from.
Let me check the post on Facebook. See what we got going on here.
Sure, because
oops. Okay, sorry.
We can hear.
Oh no, I was trying to figure out who made the comments.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Hi, Lois Johnson. Thank you so much for watching. Okay.
So from Dr. King and the Civil Rights Movement, let's go into the Black Power movement because there was we talk about this this polarity, if you will. We have different perspectives, different means of getting to the same destination. Martin and Malcolm both represented two different philosophies, if you will. But that has always been. We've had Booker T and W.E.B. Du Bois, right? We've always had two different ways, if you will, of getting to the same goal. But the Black Power movement was, they really weren't, primarily it was more in the Northeast with the Black Power movement, and they weren't really about the same philosophies as the civil rights in the South. Do you want to mention some of the books?
No, I was just showing you while you talk about the
Yes, John Carlos in the 1968 Olympics. But the Black Power movement was an awesome thing because the Nation of Islam with Elijah Muhammad created a concept of let's do for self. Just let's not even deal with those that don't want us. Let's create our own world for ourselves within America. And the Nation of Islam was doing that. Elijah Muhammad was the leader of that. His spokesman was Malcolm X. Malcolm X was one of our most profound speakers and ultimately leaders. And so he was speaking a little different talk than Martin Luther King, of course we know. He broke away from the Nation of Islam ultimately, and shortly thereafter he was assassinated. In that, but after his assassination in 1965, the Black Panther Party was started. The Black Panther Party was started by Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale. They were, they really loved to hear Malcolm speak. They loved Malcolm's philosophy. And a year after Malcolm was assassinated, the Black Panther Party was birthed, inspired by the philosophy of Malcolm X. The Black Panther Party was started in Oakland, California, 1966, by Huey Newton and Bobby Seale. Like I said, they created a great, many things, but initially they were a defense for our women and children and from police brutality, and young men from police brutality. So there was a carry law in California, so they were allowed to carry a gun, carry rifles, but Huey P. Newton knew the laws. So because the black men were carrying guns, it was a big deal. But they knew the law and they were within the law. The Black Panther Party was much more than just a defense. They created the breakfast program where they would feed kids in schools before they would go to school because many kids were hungry. And how could you expect a kid to be in school or all day without eating? So they created the breakfast program, which was later adopted by the Board of Education across this country. But before the Black Panther Party, there was no breakfast in schools.
Right.
They did so much. 10-point plan for the Black Panther Party was just things that we needed to get done within our community that we could do ourselves. Awesome. We had the Black Liberation Army, the Black Arts Movement, Black Studies became a curriculum in the colleges, started in 1969. So this is all a part of the Black Power movement birthed out of the Civil Rights movement. Awesome time in America. Awesome time in America. So Black folks started wearing their hair natural, started rocking the afros.
And one of the biggest part of that movement, as we talk about civil rights into, that's our subject today, into the current state of affairs, I do want to say that music was a very important part of that movement. And one powerful concert was Watts That, that really brought pride and acceptance of moving towards our own uniqueness and beauty and being very Afrocentric, right?
Yeah, because it was the sound of the times.
It was sound of the time.
Music usually represents the time. If you pay attention, a lot of times music today, especially, they try to use music to control the time, but music is often a reflection of the time. And back then, with the Black Power movement coming on, yes, there were musicians who were saying an ideal situation is James Brown. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud.
Curtis Mayfield.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so Curtis Mayfield and Nina Simone are considered the mother and father of resistance music in this country, right here in this part. But when Martin Luther King was assassinated in 1968, that set off a strong wave of resistance music or conscious music. Like we mentioned, Curtis Mayfield and Nina Simone were doing it before, but once Dr. King was assassinated, you had a whole slew of folks saying it loud and just keeping it real. Dr. King was killed in April, and that summer, matter of fact, 1 month after that is when the last poets were birthed. The last poets were birthed in May 19th, Malcolm X's birthday. A month after that, and then a slew of other artists came.
A lot of message music.
James Brown recorded "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud" in August of 1968, and there were so many others who were just saying something. Temptations had songs. The
The
Supremes had
staple
songs.
singer.
Yeah, they just had it. And a lot of the songs that we hear today, if you from that time, if you listen to them, they're really talking about what was going on. Like Martha Reeves, Dancing in the Street,
Mm-hmm.
they were talking about the riots. But
Mhm.
it was code. It was code language. You know, and we had a lot of that, you know, talking about the movement. It was all about the movement. And awesome time in history. We also had Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa started. Actually, it was started in 1966. But Kwanzaa is a celebration around Christmas time that was started by um, Malana Karenga, a
Mm-hmm.
brother named Malana Karenga, who was a professor, and he created this holiday to celebrate Black culture around Christmas time with the 7 principles in the Swahili language. But we had to have these means of celebrating us, of celebrating Black pride and Black awareness and African awareness. So it was a great
Let me
time.
grab you some water.
Okay. And then so moving in, we had a couple of people who were unfortunately assassinated to try to stop the movement. So like we mentioned, Martin Luther King. Well, first Malcolm X was killed in 1965, but then what set off these assassinations was when Kennedy was killed in 63. Kennedy was assassinated in 63 because of his assistance to the progress of Black folks, just keeping it real, because he is the one that presented the draft of the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act. And then 1965, Malcolm X was assassinated. 1968, Martin Luther King was assassinated. That same year, 68, Robert Kennedy was assassinated. And this was all attempts to stop the movement, to stop the progress of people of color coming up and resisting against oppression, resisting against injustices that just permeated this country. So up into the 70s, there were still great things happening. But then once again, the powers that be, they infiltrated a lot by putting drugs into the community. Coming into the 80s, the crack epidemic began in the 80s. And I would often wonder, me as being a young person in the 80s, I just used to always ask the question, where did the drugs come from? Because I know we didn't create the drugs in the hood. And where did the guns come from? Because I know we didn't produce guns. Like, how did they get there? You know? And that was just always a question. But anyway, these were attempts to stop any type of movement, stop any collective resistance of oppression. But in the midst of it, we still did some great things. So let's go from the 80s into the hip hop. Hip hop was created in the 70s, but in the 80s, it really took off because in the 70s, hip hop music was more or less a person to personal thing. You had to go to a hip hop concert to experience it. They didn't start recording records until the first record was recorded in '79. But before the first record was recorded, hip hop had started in the mid '70s, and it was just a new thing. It was awesome. It was fresh. It was unapologetic. They were talking about what was going on, just like the poets of the '60s and this new art form of music. Rappers were just saying how they felt, saying the things that they wished they could have. You know, just speaking from their experience. And then once they started recording those songs in the '80s, a new genre took off, and this became a new form of expression as far as becoming a recording artist. Moving into the '90s, what we consider to be the golden age of hip hop, you had artists, rap artists who were saying some profound, had some profound songs giving us instruction and just uplifting and encouraging folks to do better. Songs like "You and I, T.Y." by Queen Latifah, You know, just some great. The Message by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. Just songs that uplifted us. I miss those days because those days were really, really good. That was my um, early teenage years, and I really remember that time where we could have uh, any given day you could turn on the radio and hear a hip hop song that was about um, positivity or constructivity, as opposed to just talking about nonsense. But it was a good time. The group called Public Enemy, who had a song called "Fight the Power," and that was a part of a movie called "Do the Right Thing," written by Spike Lee, directed by Spike Lee. But "Fight the Power" was another protest song or resistance song, if you will. I would be here forever mentioning all of the resistance songs. But hip hop definitely was the soundtrack of Black awareness in the '90s. That was considered the golden age of hip hop, right? So we've had so many situations since we've been in this, since the inception of America, with Black people, from being brought off of slave ships or kidnapped. However, even those that were here turned into slavery, turned into free citizens, dealing with Jim Crow, dealing with oppression, all of this stuff up until today. We have always had to find ways to resist. And places like the Doc, who have books to help give us instruction on how to navigate through. These books that we have right here, these are books to help give not only knowledge on our history and our resilience and the brilliance of what we've done uh, in the midst of adversity, but they're also just ammunition for self-empowerment. People like Stokely, this book right here, Stokely Carmichael, he changed his name to Kwame Ture, and he is the one that coined the phrase Black Power.
And you know, he was married to
Miriam Makeba for a minute.
Miriam Makeba
Yeah.
out of South Africa.
Yes, that's right.
Pata Pata.
That's right. That's right. That's right. This book here, the Black History book, and these are books that you can find right here at the Doc. The Black History book. This book is awesome. Has some great events in history in this book, listed in this book. What you got?
The black book. Let me say, right now we are at we have to be reading. You guys have got to read and understand where you are, because you don't know when certain books will be banned, or even books that are not going to be available. The most effective slave is the one that's deaf, dumb, and blind. And if you are going to put yourself in that category, so be it. But right now you have the opportunity to learn. There's some great works, there's some great study out there. You have to be studied, you have to be learned, or this society is going to be destroyed for whatever reason. The hands of time has been turned back.
Yeah.
When it's all said and done, it's different.
This is a John Carlos. This is a book about John Carlos. John Carlos, along with Tommy Smith, in the 1968 Olympics in Mexico City, they decided John Carlos won the gold medal, I think, and Tommy Smith won the silver. I might be switching it, but they were the gold and silver medalists. And when they got up there on the podium and they're playing the Star Spangled Banner, they had black gloves on their fists, and they raised their fists in protest to what was going on in America at the time. And they caught a lot of heat from it. Had their medals stripped from them. They were ostracized from the whole Olympic team. They went through a lot. But today they are heralded as heroes because they stood up for something. I like to think of Colin Kaepernick. He falls in line with John Carlos and Tommy Smith. But this is a book about the story of John Carlos.
God, I just love this book. It's so pictorial.
Oh yeah, the Black Book. That was on my mother's coffee table for years. I used to look through that book.
Oh my God, it's such a great book. This is a new edition.
Yeah.
And of course, Michael Harriot. We have so many of these books.
Yeah, yeah. And this is a book on Dick Gregory. Dick Gregory was one of our great men in history. He was noted as a comedian, but he was much more than a comedian. He was a dietitian. He was an activist. Just did so much. Dick Gregory. And yeah, what else you got?
Okay. Oh, this is another Dick Gregory. No More Lies: A Myth and Reality of American History, that was written in 1972 during the Black Power movement.
Yeah.
I think Dick Gregory, Richard Pryor. We should have mentioned Richard Pryor.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He quote that Dick Gregory was one of the best, and he said Richard Dick Clayton Gregory was an African American comedian, civil rights activist, just an important icon. He is included on Comedy Central's list of 100 greatest stand-ups.
Yeah.
So
Brilliant man. And this book is a curriculum for today. This we've been mentioning this book every time we've done this series here. This is called Black History 365, and this is a curriculum. It's 1,248 pages. This book is here at the dock, but you could also get it at the what is it there? Well, just look it up. Black History 365. You can Google that and find this book. It is an awesome curriculum. We're trying to get it into the schools because it's already been accepted as a vendor. It's just a matter of districts accepting it, in spite of powers that be saying that we don't want Black history books in the school. I think that's a slap in the face to any educator because it's history. It's not Black history. It's American history.
I want to say, STEM from the beginning. They are actually doing. Oh, do I have something that's going on right there?
Yeah.
Is it? What does it say?
It just says low
Can you
down.
see some of those comments? Oh, never mind. I got some comments. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lorraine York. Thank you, Lorraine.
Yeah.
Andrew. But I wanted to say, STEM from the beginning, just a very thorough, and it includes what we did not get a chance to mention. There's so much to the civil rights movement because we did not really get a chance to talk about the deep political side of it, like the Voting Rights Act of 1965. There's so much to this, but I want to say STEM from the beginning does a really thorough review of the definitive history of racist ideals in America that gives you a flip side the deep context of racism.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say Tico Productions is doing a stage play on STEM from the beginning. STEM. He will be here this weekend. So the Dock Bookshop is his booksellers for this weekend. So
Awesome.
I am excited about that opportunity. So
When is it coming?
March 1st.
Okay, Saturday.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So also, we just had the passing of one of our great
Roberta Flack.
Yeah, singers, but Roberta Flack. You probably know some of her music. The first time I ever saw your face, or saw his face, "Killing Me Softly," which was done over by Lauryn Hill. But some of my favorite work by Roberta Flack is her singing with Donny Hathaway. Because the duet is you don't get better than Donny and Roberta singing together.
Right.
But this part, since this is Black History Study we're talking about, there was an album done by Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway. The name of the album was "Be Real Black for Me," and that album is classic. That's the album where Is the Love is on there, and it's just an awesome album. And they did "Come Ye Disconsolate." Oh, a beautiful, beautiful rendition of that song. So go check that out. Roberta Flack, she passed away on.
She did soundtrack for Busta Loose too, didn't she?
I think so.
Yeah.
She did. But she was born 1937, February 10th. She passed on February 24th. She was
My mother was a huge fan of Roberta Flack.
88 years old. Yeah. She lived a full life. But yeah, trailblazer.
So you could go online. I'll have these books on our website. It's going to be under the books discussed on social media. I should have it up tonight, and you probably have a discount code there if you wanted to get any of these books that we've displayed all over the table. That we pretty much did not read from. We just kind of went off the dome of just both of us having studied history.
Yeah.
I got a double major in economics and history, so whatever, I don't know how much that's worth. Besides, self-study is always the greatest. Building your own library is always paramount. We call ourselves royalty, and princesses, kings, and queens. Well, these people had massive libraries, and so if we're going to bestow those titles on ourselves, we need to make sure we align with our mind, align with that royalty title that you want to bestow upon yourself, and that is making sure you have a massive library.
Yeah.
Yes. And so we're going to have another series that starts next month. And so that series, of course, is going to be Black Women's History Month. So we are going to deal with Black women in antiquity. So we're probably going to go from Queen Hatshepsut, Nefertiti, Nzinga, Yasantiwa, all the way up into, Septima Clark and
Shirley Chisholm.
Queen Mother Moore.
Yeah.
It's just, we're going to cover that. And then I'm going to also add the Daughters of Thunder. And that is your faith-based side of women movement, because a lot of stuff took place in the church, and a lot of women were on the forefront in the church dealing with political and economic and social issues and within the church.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have another loaded next month where we're going to go from Black women in antiquity to Daughters of Thunder. So I'm excited about that discussion. It's going to be a lot, you guys. So if you have any other suggestions how we can make these series great, please go ahead. Yep, she said it had Hatshepsut. Yes. So we're going to and we're going to talk. A lot of people don't talk about the Nahandas, so we're going to talk about the Nahandas too. So we're going to cover a lot, because we're going to do it international as well. So we're going to cover a lot.
She's landed.
Okay.
She's landed.
All right. Shout out to everybody for just hanging with us. We love you. Thank you so much. And tag, share. You have a great rest of Black History Month.
Yes. Power to the people. Donna has landed. Is somebody coming to get me?